This audio program is presented by Audible.com. Audible, audio that speaks to you wherever you are.
Five Go to Smuggler's Top by Enid Blyton. One fine day, right at the beginning of the Easter holidays, 4 children and a dog travelled by train together. There was Julian, Dick, their sister Anne, their cousin Georgina, and her dog Timmy. Georgina looked more like a boy than a girl, because she wore her hair very short and had a determined face like Julian. They all called her George, and she would never answer to any other name. As the train pulled into the station, she looked out of the window.
Oh, it's so nice to be going home. I love school, but it'll be fun to be at Kieran Cottage and perhaps sail out to Kieran Island and visit the castle there. We haven't been since last summer.
And I could do with a holiday. I've worked jolly hard at school this term.
You must have done. You've got thin, you know.
Well, I'll soon get fat at Kieran Cottage, don't you worry. Aunt Fanny will see to that. She's a great one for trying to fatten people up.
Yes. And I hope Father will be in a good temper these holes. He ought to be, because he's just finished some new experiments, Mother says, which have been quite successful.
Aunt Fanny was there on the platform to meet them. The 4 children jumped out and rushed to hug her. Timmy pranced round, barking in delight. He adored George's mother. They all set off in the pony trap. It was very windy and cold, and the children shivered and pulled their coats tightly round them. By the time they got to Kieran Cottage, the wind was howling round the house. The windows rattled, the doors shook, and the mats lifted themselves up and down as the draught got under them. After tea, the children rather hoped that their uncle would retire to his study as he usually did. But this time he didn't. They wanted to play a game, but it wasn't much good with Uncle Quentin there. He really wasn't any good at all, not even at such a simple game as Snap.
Do you know a boy called Pierre Lenoir? I believe he goes to your school, Julian.
Pierre Lenoir? Oh, you mean old Sooty? Yes, he's in Dick's form. Mad as a hatter.
Sooty? Why do you call him that? Silly name for a boy?
If you saw him, you wouldn't think so, Uncle Quentin. His hair's as black as soot, eyes like bits of coal, and his name means the black one in French, doesn't it?
Yes, quite true. But what a name to give anyone. Sooty. Well, I've been having quite a lot of correspondence with this boy's father. I have a letter from him here. He and I are interested in the same scientific matters. In fact, I've asked him to come and stay with me a few days and bring his boy, Pierre.
Oh, really? Well, it wouldn't be bad to have old Sooty here, Uncle. But he's quite mad, and can be awfully cheeky.
I wish I'd asked you about the boy before. Well, we'll see.
It was nice to climb the steep stairs to their familiar bedrooms that night. Their long train journey had tired them, but nobody could sleep. The gale was raging round the house so fiercely, shrieking and howling like a live thing. Timmy kept up a continuous low growling, for he did not like the shakes and rattles and howls. Towards dawn, the wind seemed in a fury. Anne thought it sounded as if it was in a horrible temper. She lay and trembled, half frightened. Suddenly, there was a strange noise. It was a loud, woeful groaning and creaking. The 2 girls sat up, terrified. What could it be? The boys heard it too. Julian leapt out of bed and ran to the window. Outside stood the old ash tree, tall and black in the fitful moonlight. It was gradually bending over.
It's the ash. It's falling. Quick, Dick, warn the girls. Everybody, come downstairs, quickly.
What's all this noise? Julian, what's it?
Uncle, Aunt, come downstairs. The ash tree is falling.
What? Come on, Fanny.
Oh dear, I knew something would happen. Quentin, we ought to have had that ash tree topped. I knew it would fall in a great gale like this. What has it done to the roof?
I'll go and see.
Be careful.
I will.
Well?
It's crashed through the attic. The girls' room is ruined. They would have been killed if they'd been in their beds.
Next morning, the wind was still high, but the fury of the gale was gone. In the light of day, it was surprising what damage the big tree had done. It had cracked the roof of the house like an eggshell, and the rooms upstairs were in a terrible mess.
The first thing is to decide what is to happen to the children, Fanny. They can't remain here while there are no usable bedrooms.
They had better go back to school, poor things.
No, I've a better idea than that. I've had a letter from that fellow Lenoir this morning. He says... wait a minute, I'll read you a bit. Oh, yes, here it is. It is most kind of you to suggest my coming to stay and bringing Pierre. Allow me to extend hospitality to you and your children also. All are welcome here in this big house. My Pierre will be glad of company, and so will his sister Maribel. There you are. I call that a most generous invitation. We'll pack all the children off to this fellow's house.
But Quentin...
No, I shan't hear any arguments. If we hire a car today, they can go at once.
But we can't let them go off to strangers like that. They'll hate it. I shouldn't be surprised if George refuses to go.
Oh, that reminds me. She's not to take Timothy. Apparently, Lenoir doesn't like dogs.
Oh, well then, she won't go. That's foolish, Quentin. George won't go anywhere without Timmy.
She'll have to this time. Ah, here are the children now. I'll ask them what they feel about going. Julian, Dick, Anne, George, could you come here a moment, please? I've something to tell you.
Yes?
You remember that boy I spoke to you about last night? Pierre Lenoir? You had some absurd name for him.
Sooty.
Sooty, yes. Well, his father has kindly invited you to go and stay with him at Smugglers' Top.
Smugglers' Top? What's that?
The name of his house. It's very old and built on the top of a strange hill, surrounded by marshes, over which the sea once flowed. Smuggling went on there in the old days. It's a very peculiar place, so I've heard. So, would you like to go, or would you rather go back to school?
Oh, no,
school.
not back to school.
Let's go to Smugglers' Top.
Yes, can I take Timmy?
No, I'm afraid not. Mr. Lenoir doesn't like dogs.
Then I shan't like him. I won't go without Timmy.
You'll have to go back to school, then. And wipe off that sulky expression, George. You know how I dislike it.
But George wouldn't. She turned away. The others looked at her in dismay. Surely old George wasn't going to get into one of her moods and spoil everything. The others pressed her to change her mind, but she shook them off. Then she went out with Timmy. The others didn't follow her. She wasn't very nice when she was cross. When she came back, she was more cheerful and announced that she had decided to go after all. Aunt Fanny packed them all an early lunch, and then a big car came for them. Waving and shouting, the children drove away from Kirin Cottage, sad when they looked back and saw the smashed roof under the fallen tree. George said nothing for a while, and the car sped on. It went over a hill and sped down to the bottom. When they got there, George leaned forward and touched the driver's arm.
Would you stop, please? We have to pick somebody up here.
Pick somebody up? Whatever do you mean, George?
You'll see. It's Timmy!
I don't know if you're supposed to take that dog in. Your father didn't say anything about him.
It's all right. You needn't worry. Start the car again, please.
You are a monkey, George. Mr. Lenoir may send him back, you know.
Well, he'll have to send me back too, then. The main thing is I've got Timmy and I'm coming with you.
On to Smuggler's Top. Yes? I wonder if we shall have any adventures there.
The car sped on, mostly along the coast, though it sometimes went inland for a few miles. But sooner or later it was in sight of the sea again. At 12:30, they stopped and had lunch. When they had finished, they got back into the car and drove off once more. Anne fell asleep, and the others felt drowsy too. It began to rain, and the countryside looked rather dreary. Then the driver told them they would soon be leaving the mainland and taking the road across the marsh. The children sat up expectantly. But it was very disappointing. The marshes were full of mist, and all they could see was the road they were on, raised a little higher than the surrounding flat marshland.
Stop a minute, could you? I'd like to see what the marsh is like.
Well, don't step off the road, and don't let that dog out. Once he runs off the road and into the marsh, he'll be gone for good.
What do you mean, gone for good?
He means the marsh will suck Timmy down at once. Keep him in the car, George. It's mud. Loose, squelchy mud. Look, when I touch it with my foot, it moves. It would suck you down if you trod heavily on it. Have many travellers been lost in that strange sea marsh, driver?
Oh, there are many that have never been heard of again. They say there are 1 or 2 winding paths that go from the mainland to the hill that were used before the road was built. But unless you know every inch of them, you're off them in a second, and your feet sinking into the mud.
It's horrid to think about. Can we see the hill yet?
Yes, there it is, looming out of the mist. Castaway Hill, they call it. Strange place it is, and no mistake. The top is out of the mist, see?
That must be Smuggler's Top, right at the summit. It looks really old. And look at the tower it has.
It's sort of secret-looking somehow, isn't it?
Well, it won't be long now, and we'll be there.
As they neared Castaway Hill, the road began to slope upwards. They went through a big archway, and they were in an old town, surrounded by high city walls, wide enough to walk on. They drove slowly up the winding high street, and the children peered at the old houses and shops with their diamond-paned windows and stout doors. At last they arrived at Smuggler's Top. It was built of brick and timber, and its front door was as massive as that of a castle. They all got out of the car, and Dick rang the bell.
Dick! Julian! Here you are at last!
This is Sooty. Sooty, meet George and Anne.
Oh, and this is Maribel, my sister.
Hello.
Come in, everyone. Oh, I say, that's not your dog, is it?
He's mine. I had to bring him.
Yes, but no dogs allowed at Smuggler's Top. My stepfather won't allow any dogs here.
I thought maybe we could hide him while we were here. But if that's how you feel, I'll go back home in the car.
Oh, come back, stupid. We'll think of something. Come on. I know. We'll take the secret passage to my bedroom. No one will see us then. And once we're there, we can make plans to hide the dog. Ready?
A secret passage? How thrilling.
This way. It starts from the study here. Push this panel. Pull this lever. And hey presto. A panel in the wall has opened. Exactly. Now, come on. Don't make a noise. Here we are. The passage comes out in the cupboard in my bedroom. This way. And here we are.
It's amazing!
And it's all right, George. We're quite safe here. My room and Maribel's room are separated from the rest of the house. We're in a wing on our own, reached by this long passage. See? Timmy could bark if he liked, and no one would know.
But doesn't anyone ever come? Who keeps your room tidy?
Oh, Sarah the maid does that every morning, but usually no one else comes. Anyway, I've got a way of knowing if anyone opens the door at the end of that passage.
How?
I've rigged up a buzzer that sounds as soon as the door is opened. I'll go along and open it while you stay here. Good, isn't it?
I'll say.
Did you mean what you said about hiding Timmy, Sooty? I mean, how can he be fed? And how can we exercise him?
Oh, we'll plan it all. Don't worry. I love dogs. But I have to warn you, if my stepfather ever finds out, we shall get a jolly good telling off.
But why doesn't he like dogs?
I don't know, but he's an odd sort of man, my stepfather.
Odd? How?
Well, he seems full of secrets. Strange people come here, you know. And I've seen lights shining from the tower on certain nights. But I don't know who puts them there or why.
Do you think your stepfather is a smuggler?
I don't think so. We've got one smuggler here, and everyone knows him. His name's Barling. Even the police know his goings-on. But they can't stop him. He's very rich and powerful.
This seems rather an exciting place. I have a feeling there might be an adventure somewhere about.
Oh no, nothing happens really. It's only just a feeling you get here, because this place is so old, so full of secret ways and passages. Why, the whole hill is mined with passages in the rock, used by smugglers of olden times.
Well, I must...
The buzzer! Someone's coming! What shall we do with Timmy?
In here! There! Oh, hello, Block. It's you. This is Block, my stepfather's man. He's deaf, so you can say what you like. But it's better not to, because he seems to sense what we say.
Your stepfather and your mother want to know why you've not brought your friends to see them. Why did you rush up here like this?
Because I was so pleased to see them, of course. All right, Block. We'll be down in a minute.
Feeling rather unhappy at leaving Timmy locked up in a cupboard, the children followed Sooty and Maribel down the stone passage to the oak door. They went through and down a great flight of stairs. Then they went down into the big hall and followed Sooty through a door on the right. Mr. Lenoir sat in a big oak chair, while his wife sat in another, looking lost. She was such a tiny woman, like a doll.
Ah, Pierre, your manners still need a little polishing, I see. Eh? Well, I hope you all will have a good time here. Pierre and Maribel will show you the old town. And if you promise to be careful, you can walk along the road to the mainland to go to the cinema.
Oh, great!
Block will give you all your meals in Maribel's schoolroom. Then you will not disturb my husband. He doesn't like talk at meal times, and that would be rather hard on 6 children.
Oh, and by the way, Pierre, I forbid you to wander about the catacombs in this hill. Huh? Nor will I have you acting about on the city wall and taking risks. Will you promise me this?
I don't act about on the city wall. I don't take risks either.
Oh, you play the fool always.
Oh, but I was top of my form last year.
Enough! Now get out, all of you.
I didn't promise, did I? He wanted to take all our fun away. This place isn't fun if you don't explore.
What are catacombs?
Winding secret tunnels in the hill. Nobody knows them at all. You can get lost in them easily. Lots of people have.
Why are there so many secret ways and things here?
It was a haunt of smugglers, I'll bet. And you say there still is a smuggler here, Sooty?
Yes, Barling. You can see his house from your rooms.
But what about poor Timmy? Where will he stay?
He'll be all right. He can have free run of that passage to my bedroom. And we'll smuggle him out by another secret tunnel that opens halfway down in the town and give him plenty of exercise each morning. Oh, we'll have a grand time.
Next morning, the children took Timmy out for a walk through a secret passage that led to the town. It started in Mary Bell's room, under a heavy stone trap-door in the floor. Sooty had a rope ladder, and they all climbed carefully down it, while Timmy was lowered down in a laundry basket. Soon they were all standing together at the bottom. There was a musty smell, and the walls were damp and greenish. Sooty swung his torch round, and the children saw various passages leading off here and there.
Where do they all lead?
I told you this hill was full of tunnels. There are miles and miles of them. No one explores them now, though.
It's weird. I wouldn't like to be here alone.
But what a place to hide smuggled goods in. No one would ever find them, would they?
I guess the old-time smugglers knew every inch of these passages. Let's take the one that leads out of the hillside.
There's another opening over there, Sooty.
Yes, that one goes to Mr. Barling's house somewhere. Most of the old houses have openings like ours. Jolly well hidden some of them are too.
There's daylight or something in front. Oh, good, I hate this tunnel. Phew, that's better. Where are we?
We've come out on the cliff above the marsh. If we get to the path down there, it'll lead us to the place where the city wall is fairly low and we can climb over it.
Soon they were over the wall, Timmy too. They set off for a good walk, swinging down the hill. The mist began to clear after a while, and the sun felt nice and warm. The town was very old. Some of the houses seemed almost tumble down, but there were people living in them. The shops were quaint, with long narrow windows and overhanging eaves. The children stopped to look into them. Suddenly, Sooty noticed Block walking towards them.
Look out! It's Block! Don't take any notice of Timmy at all. If he comes around us, pretend to drive him off like a stray.
Right. Shh. Go away, you dog.
No! Go away! Go home, can't you?
Is the dog bothering you? If I throw a stone at him, that'll soon make him go.
Don't you dare! I don't mind the dog following us. He's nice.
Block's deaf, George. It's no good talking to him.
But he's about to throw that stone. Hey, stop that! I'll tell the police.
Now, what's all this about? Pierre, what's the trouble?
Oh, Mr. Barling. I didn't see you. No, nothing's the matter. It's only this dog is following us, and Block was going to throw a stone at it.
I see. And who are these children?
They've come to stay with us, because their house has been damaged in a gale. Well, it's George's father's house, really. Kieran Cottage.
Kieran? Surely that is where that clever scientist friend of Mr. Lenoir lives.
Yes, he's my father. Do you know him?
Well, I have heard of him and his very interesting experiments. Mr. Lenoir knows him well, I believe.
Not awfully well. They just write to each other. But Mr. Lenoir offered to put us up.
Ah, yes. Such a generous fellow, your father, Pierre. Well, I must be off.
The children stared after Mr. Barling. It was plain that Mr. Barling didn't like Mr. Lenoir at all. Well, neither did they. By now, Block had disappeared too, so the children continued their walk. 2 or 3 days went by, and the children fell into their new life quite happily, and Timmy was taken out for a long walk each dawn. It was turning out to be quite a peaceful holiday after all. Nothing much seemed to happen. But then things did begin to happen, and once they had begun, they never stopped. One night, Julian was awakened by someone opening his door.
Who is it?
Me, Sooty. I say, I want you to come and see something.
What?
You'll see. Wake Dick and follow me.
Sooty led them to a peculiar little room with a view of the tower belonging to the house. The boys stared. Someone was signalling from the tower.
Now, who's doing that?
Your father?
I don't think so. I heard him snoring in his room.
It may be Block up in the tower. I wouldn't trust him an inch. I bet it's Block.
Well, let's go and see if his room's empty.
Good idea. But for goodness sake, don't let's get caught.
This is Block's room along here. I'll just have a peek. I can't hear him.
Can you see him? There's quite a bright moon.
Yes, I can. I can see the shape of his body under the blankets. So it's not Block after all. So who could it be? Is there a stranger in the house? Let's creep up to the tower to find out.
All right.
We'll have to be careful, though. You get to it by a spiral staircase, and there's nowhere much to hide. We'd better not all go up. You stay here and wait. I'll see if I can see anything through the keyhole.
We'll hide behind this curtain down here.
All right.
I wonder what he can hear.
Don't know, but that sounds like him coming down the stairs.
I'll take a peek. No, it's not Sooty. It's a man's legs. Stay quiet.
Sooty must have managed to hide too. I'll see where he goes.
Keeping well in the shadows, Dick crept along the corridor after the signaller. He went across a landing and up the back stairs which led to the staff bedrooms. Then Dick, to his surprise, saw the person disappear silently into Block's bedroom. The door was slightly open, and he peeped in. The moonlight lit up all the corners, and he could see that the room was empty except for Block sleeping in bed. He went back to find the others to tell them.
It was the strangest thing I ever saw. A man goes into a room and completely disappears. Where can he have gone?
We really must find out. It's such a mystery. But how did you know there was signalling going on from the tower, Sooty?
Quite by accident. I was looking for an old book in that room I took you to. I looked up at the tower and saw a flashing light. And there's someone out at sea who receives the signals.
Smugglers, do you think? But it can't be anything to do with your father, Sooty. And Block's asleep. And it can't be Mr. Barling, who is a smuggler, because the signal came from this house, not his. It's all very puzzling.
Next morning, they again took Timmy out for his walk and met Block again, who stared with great interest at the dog. Back at Smuggler's Top, Timmy was put safely in the secret passage. He'd got quite used to this peculiar life now. He knew his way about the passage and had explored the other passages that led from it. Soon the children were sitting down to lunch. Block was there, waiting to serve them. He served them with soup and then went out. Suddenly, to the children's intense surprise and fright, they heard Timmy barking loudly.
That's Timmy. He must be in the secret passage behind the wall.
Don't say a word in front of Block. Not a word. Pretend not to hear if Timmy barks again.
Here he comes now.
Now remember, not a word about Timmy.
You have finished your soup. I will bring your main course.
Jolly good soup that was today, I must say.
Oh yes, jolly good.
I wonder how they're getting on at Kieran Cottage, George.
Yes, I wonder.
Thank you, Block.
Yes, thank you, Block.
I hope old Block is as deaf as a post. I could have sworn I saw a surprised look when Timmy barked.
Shh! He's coming back. Oh, Father! father.
Yes, Pierre, who did you expect? I see you are enjoying your dinner. Does Block wait on you properly?
Oh, yes, thank you. We're having a very nice time here.
That's good. Shh! Did you hear that noise?
What noise?
Don't be foolish, it's a dog.
Sorry, but I can't hear a dog.
When I catch it, I will have it poisoned. I will not have dogs here.
How dare he?
Shut up, silly. Block will be back in a minute. We must pretend to be surprised Mr. Lenoir thought there was a dog here, because if Block can read our lips, he mustn't know the truth.
Well, I'm going home. I'm not risking Timmy being poisoned.
You can't. It would look funny, and then we won't have a chance to solve this mystery with Sooty.
Well, I'll telephone to say I'm homesick and want to go back. You can all stay and solve the mystery.
George slipped down the passage and down the stairs to where the telephone was enclosed in a little dark cupboard. She dialed the number she wanted, and it rang at Kirin Cottage. But nobody answered it. George put down the receiver miserably. She would try again later, but each time she tried there was no reply. As she was coming out of the telephone cupboard for the third time, Mrs. Lenoir saw her.
Have you been trying to telephone home? Haven't you heard?
Heard what?
Oh, your mother rang to say it's impossible to live at Kirin Cottage with men hammering everywhere, so they were going away for a week or so. But Mr. Lenoir has asked them here. They will let us know soon if they can come.
I see.
Oh, you don't sound very pleased, dear.
No, I am. It's just...
I know. Why don't you and the other children all come down to the drawing room after tea? We could have a game of cards. Mr. Lenoir is out tonight on important business. He doesn't like his evenings disturbed when he's at home, so I haven't been able to see as much of you all as I should have liked. Ah, I expect that's your parents now. Hello? Yes. Oh, certainly. Yes? Well, of course. Good. We look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye. That was your father, George. He is coming on his own. They were at your aunt's, and your mother thinks she should stay because your aunt is not very well. But your father would like to come and discuss his latest experiments with Mr. Lenoir.
The children would very much rather have had Aunt Fanny instead of Uncle Quentin, who could be very difficult at times, but he would probably be talking with Mr. Lenoir most of the time, so that would be all right. After they had finished their game with Mrs. Lenoir that evening, the children all went up to bed. George went to get Timmy to take him to her room. Sooty went to see that the coast was clear. As he went across the landing that led to his own room, he noticed 2 shoes sticking out from under the thick curtains drawn across the landing window. He looked at them in surprise, then grinned and ran to tell the others.
It's old Block. He obviously suspects we have a dog, and he's posted himself there to watch. Well, we'll give him a nasty shock.
What will we do?
I'll get a rope, and we'll all go downstairs to the landing. I'll suddenly yell out that there's a robber behind the curtains, and I'll pounce on Block. Then, with your help, Julian and Dick, we'll fold him up in the curtains. A good jerk will bring him down.
And while that's going on, I can slip by with Timmy.
Yes.
Come on then, I'll get the rope. Ready? Ah! A robber! Help! There's a robber hiding here! Get him!
Quick, get the rope. Let's tie him up.
What's all this? Have you children all gone mad?
We've caught a robber and tied him up.
A robber? Where?
He was hiding behind the curtain, Mr. Lenoir. Call the police.
Let me go. Let me go.
Oh, mon Dieu, it's Block. Untie him quickly.
But it can't be Block. He was hiding behind the curtains.
Do as you're told. I can hardly believe it, tying up my servant. If he leaves, it will be your fault.
The children hoped fervently that Block would leave. It would be marvellous to have the deaf, blank-faced fellow out of the house. He was on the watch for Timmy, they felt sure. But Block was still there next morning, and there was a shock for George when Sooty came to her with some bad news.
I say, George, what do you think? Your father's going to have my room when he comes.
What?
It's true. I've got to sleep with Julian and Dick. Block's moving my things out. I hope we can get Timmy out in time.
But Block stayed in the room all morning cleaning it. When he eventually left to see to luncheon, George rushed to the door of Sooty's room, eager to get poor Timmy. But she couldn't open the door. It was locked, and Block had taken the key. By now, George was in despair. She went to find Sooty.
Sooty, I shall have to get into that secret passage the way you first took us in. Through your father's study room, you know.
We can't. He uses it now, and he'd half kill anyone who went in there.
But I've got to get in there somehow. Timmy may starve. The door's open. Perhaps I could just peek. No one there. Good. Now's my chance. Now, which was the panel? Oh, where was the place Sooty pressed? Here? Oh, no. It must be here. I've got to hurry. Oh, where can it be?
Now, what exactly do you think you are doing?
Oh, Mr. Lenoir.
How dare you come into my study and mess about like this? How dare you? What are you doing in my study, huh? No, I don't want to hear any excuses. I've never known anything like it, you impudent child. I'm going to tell Block to take you to your room, lock you in, and give you nothing but bread and water for the rest of the day. That will teach you to behave yourself in future.
My father won't be very pleased when he hears you're punishing me like...
Wait till he hears how you misbehave yourself. Nobody is allowed in my study.
Poor George was soon being propelled upstairs by Block, who was only too delighted to be punishing one of the children. Julian, Dick and the others rushed upstairs just in time to see him shove George roughly into her room and lock the door.
There.
Hey, what are you doing? Here, unlock that door, do you hear?
Let go of my arm. Mr. Lenoir gave me orders to punish that girl.
You jolly well unlock that door. Give me that key.
Ah, get away.
The brute. Are you all right, Julian?
Yes, I think so. But what about George?
George? Whatever's happened?
Mr. Lenoir caught me in his study. I was going to go through that secret passage to rescue Timmy.
How shall I go to bed tonight? All my things are in your room.
He'll have to sleep with me. I'll lend you a nightie.
But what will your father say when he comes, George? I hope he say he'll be set free at once.
He won't. He'll just think I've been in one of my bad moods. Oh, I wish Mother was coming too.
The others were very upset about George, as well as about Timmy. Things seemed to be going very wrong indeed. George felt lonely when the others had gone to tea. She was hungry and she wanted Timmy. Angry and miserable, she longed to escape. She went to the window and looked out. Her room looked straight down the cliffside. Below was the city wall that ran round the town. George knew she could not jump down to the wall, but she suddenly remembered the rope ladder they had used to go down into the pit that led to the secret passage into the town. It had first been in Marybelle's room, but they were afraid that Block might find it, so George had smuggled it into her room. Now, her hands shaking with excitement, she unlocked her suitcase and took out the rope ladder. When the others came back, she told them what she was going to do, speaking with a low voice through the door.
I'll get down onto the wall, walk along it, and then jump down and creep back into the house. Get some food for me somehow, and I'll have it then. And later tonight, when everyone has gone to bed, I'll creep out again and get into the study and find a way through to the secret passage. Sooty can help me. Then I can get Timmy.
Right. Wait till it's fairly dark before you climb down, though. Block's gone to bed with a headache, but the others are around.
So when twilight came, George slid down the rope ladder to the city wall and walked along it. She passed by several houses and could look in the windows of those that were not curtained. In one she got a great surprise. Surely that was Block in there. He had his back to her, but she could have sworn it was Block. And he was talking to Mr. Barling, the smuggler of Castaway Hill. But wait a minute. Could it be Block? Block was deaf, and this man evidently wasn't. When she got back to Smuggler's Top, she reported what she had seen to the others, who were waiting for her with a little feast.
I raided the larder. Cook's out, and Block's gone to bed for a rest with his headache.
Then it couldn't have been Block I saw. But I'm certain it was. Go and have a peep in his room, Sooty.
All right.
I'm certain it was him, Julian, sitting there talking to Mr. Barling.
Did you see his face?
No, but I'd know him from the back, I'm sure.
It certainly is very puzzling.
You're telling me. Ah, here's Sooty back again.
Well?
He's in bed. So there are 2 Blocks then.
Is my father here yet?
Yes, just arrived.
He's awfully tired and a bit cross, though, and frightfully annoyed with you for misbehaving. He said you were to be locked up tomorrow too if you don't apologise.
Apologise? I shan't. But I'll have to get Timmy tonight, or he'll be frantic. I'll go round and climb back in my window again now, then wait until dark, and you must let me back into the house, Sooty, and open the secret way for me.
All right, you'd better go back now. Here, take some buns.
Thanks.
At midnight, George crept out again and went to the side door of the house. Sooty was there and let her in. But when they got to his father's study, it was locked. So Sooty offered to creep into his old bedroom, where George's father was sleeping, and get into the secret passage that way.
But Sooty, the buzzer will go as soon as you open the door.
Idiot. I disconnected it as soon as I knew my room was going to be changed. Right, here we are. Your father sounds a bit restless. I'll slip into the cupboard and open the secret passage. Then as soon as I've got Timmy, I'll bring him along. Wait in Maribel's room if you like.
Sooty crept into the room where George's father lay. He knew every creaking floorboard and avoided them. He made his way to a big chair, meaning to hide behind it. For some time the man tossed and turned, but at last George's father grew quiet. Sooty cautiously moved out from behind the chair. Then something startled him. He heard a sound over by the window. Was someone opening it? No, the window itself did not move, but the top of the window seat beneath the window was slowly moving upwards, and a figure climbed out. Sooty felt the hair rising on his head. He was terribly afraid. The figure tiptoed over to the bed, made a quick movement, and Sooty guessed that George's father had been gagged. Then the intruder lifted the limp body from the bed and put him down inside the window seat. Sooty suddenly found his voice.
Hey, what are you doing? Who are you? Mr. Barling?
Someone had hit him a hard blow on the head, and he remembered nothing more at all. He did not know he was lifted into the window seat, or that the intruder followed after him. George, hearing Sooty cry out, was extremely startled. She went to the door next to her and listened. But now there was absolutely no sound at all. She put her head round the door and shone her torch into the room.
What? The room's empty. But where's father? Where's Sooty? What's that? Oh no, I can hear someone coming. Where can I hide? Where can I... Under the bed, yes. It's Block, I'm sure. He's gone to the window seat. But what's he doing?
For about 5 minutes the person worked at his task by the window seat. Then, as quietly as he came, he left. When all was quiet again, George slipped through the door of Julian's bedroom and told them what had happened. They were amazed and went to Mary Bell's room to wake her and Anne. Soon all 5 children were in the room from which George's father and Sooty had so strangely vanished.
But why call out Mr. Barling's name? It doesn't make sense.
I know, but I'm sure it was Mr. Barling's name that I heard Sooty call out. Do you think... Oh, yes, do you think Mr. Barling could possibly have crept through the secret opening in the cupboard to do some dirty work and gone back the same way?
Let's look. Look at that. The handle to open the secret door is gone. Someone's removed it.
Oh, no! So now I can't even get Timmy.
I'm sure Mr. Lenoir is at the bottom of this. I bet it was Block you saw in here, George.
Well, then we can't tell them what's happened if they are at the bottom of it all. And we can't tell your mother, Mary Bell, or she'll go to your father about it.
Oh, what will we do?
I want Sooty. I'm sure he's in danger.
We'll rescue him tomorrow. Don't you worry. We can't do anything tonight. I vote we go to bed. Sooty and Uncle Quentin may have turned up again by the morning. If they haven't, Mr. Lenoir will have to be told, and we'll see his reaction. We'll soon know if he has anything to do with this mystery or not. George, you go and sleep with Anne and Mary Bell next door. Dick and I will sleep here.
Next morning, Julian and Dick were woken when Sarah the maid came in with tea for Uncle Quentin. She couldn't believe her eyes to find the 2 boys in the visitors' room, but no visitor. Then Block discovered George in Mary Bell's room, when he thought she was locked in her own room, and went to get Mr. Lenoir. In a few minutes he came along looking puzzled and upset, with Mrs. Lenoir, who looked scared out of her life.
Julian, tell me what has happened, quickly.
Uncle Quentin disappeared from his bed last night, and Sooty's vanished too.
I think you are keeping something back. You will tell us everything you know, please.
Tell him, Julian.
I'm going to the police. Perhaps you will talk to them, my boy.
I shouldn't have thought you would want to go to the police. You've got too many secrets to hide.
Pardon? What? Block, come in. There seems to have been peculiar happenings here.
No. What we want to say is not to be said in front of Block. We don't trust him.
What do you mean? What do you know about my servants? I've known Block for years. He can't help being deaf. I know that makes him irritable, but I insist you tell me all you know.
I'd rather tell the police.
Oh, this is intolerable. Oh, go away, Block. You'd better all come down to my study.
Mr. Lenoir wasn't behaving as they had thought he might behave. He seemed sincerely puzzled and upset. Surely he wouldn't do that if he had had a hand in the disappearances. So Julian told him all they knew about the strange signalling from the tower, and how they had followed the signaller to Block's room, where he had disappeared.
Got out of the window, I suppose. Block's got nothing to do with this. You can rest assured of that. He's most faithful and loyal. I have an idea that Mr. Barling is at the bottom of this. He can't signal from his house to the sea because he's not high enough up the hill. He must have been using my tower, coming himself to do it. He knows all the secret ways of this house better than I do. It would be easy for him. But I really don't see why Block shouldn't know all this. It's plain that Barling could explain a lot. I'll see if Block has ever suspected anything.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I'll see what Block thinks about everything, and if we can't solve this mystery ourselves, we'll get in the police.
Later, when the children were alone, Julian thought it was time they did a little mystery-solving themselves. He and Dick decided to go down to Mr. Barling's house. Perhaps Sooty and Uncle Quentin were hidden there. After all, George had distinctly heard Sooty yell out, "Mr. Barling," so it must have been him who was the kidnapper. But when they got to the house, they found it shut up. A gardener next door told them he'd gone away for a holiday and was on his own. So what had he done with his captives? Meanwhile, George had been doing some snooping on her own. She had slipped into Uncle Quentin's room to see if there was another secret passage. She had tried the cupboard again, wishing she could get into the secret passage there and find Timmy. But nothing. She was about to leave when she noticed something lying on the floor. A screw. Then she remembered the squeaky noises she'd heard made by whoever it was at the window seat. Of course, it was screws being screwed into the seat. She rushed off to get a screwdriver.
Ah, that's the last one. Now let's see what's in here.
George, where are you?
In here. Come in, all of you. You better lock the door too.
What are you doing?
This is how he got in.
What?
See?
Look at that. I bet even old Sooty didn't know about this.
Shall we go down and see if we can find Timmy?
Where does it go?
We'll find out. Sooty says the whole hill is honeycombed with underground passages.
Oh, someone's trying to get in!
Why is this door locked? Open it at once!
It's Father! I'd better unlock the door!
Put the seat back, George. Dick and Anne, you sit on it.
What are all you children doing in here?
Just wondering how Uncle Quentin and Sooty could have disappeared.
Well, I've had a good talk with Block. Just as I thought, he doesn't know a thing about all the goings-on. He was amazed to hear about the signalling. But he doesn't think it's Mr. Barling.
Oh.
Yes, it's quite upset, Block. I've told him to have a rest in his room till we decide what to do next. I've rung the police, but the inspector is out. He'll ring me as soon as he's back. Now, can you all keep out of mischief just for a while?
When Mr. Lenoir had gone, Julian went to see if Block really was in his room. Yes, the door was a little ajar, and he could see the shape of Block's body in the bed. He came back, and they all climbed one by one into the hole under the window seat. As they had thought, it led to another secret passage in the house, but this one went straight downwards, so they were soon well below the house. Then they came into a maze of tunnels.
Look here, we can't possibly go any further. We shall get lost. We haven't got Sooty, and Mary Bell isn't any good at finding the way.
Shh! What's that? I can hear footsteps. Switch off your torch, Julian. Let's hide in this opening.
Have a peek out, Anne. Can you see anything?
It's two people. One's tall and thin. The other looks like Block.
How can it be?
They've turned down a tunnel along there.
Shall we follow them?
Of course not. Supposing they suddenly turned back and found us.
And I'm sure the other one was Mr. Barling, too.
But he's gone away!
Supposed to have gone away, you mean? I wonder where they're going. To Father and Sooty, I bet.
When they got back to Smuggler's Top, Julian went to see if Block was still in his bed. He pushed open the door. Yes, there he was. But something made Julian curious. He went over to the bed and put his hand on the shoulder. Then he got a real shock. It wasn't Block at all. It was just pillows made to look like a body under the sheets. Meanwhile, Uncle Quentin and Sooty were in a dark cave at the end of a very old passage that even Sooty didn't know. There was no way they could escape. They would just get lost. All they could do was wait until their captors came back. And in due course Mr. Barling did come, bringing Block with him. Block carried some food, which was very welcome to the prisoners.
You beast, Block! How dare you help in this? You wait till my stepfather hears about this, unless he's in it too.
Hold your tongue.
So you can hear. All this time you've been pretending you can't. What a lot of secrets you must have overheard.
And you shall answer to the police. I demand to be taken to Smuggler's Top.
Oh, you do you? Well, I have a very generous proposal to make. I know why you've come to Smuggler's Top, and why you and Lenoir are so interested in each other's experiments.
How do you know? Spying, I suppose.
I bet Block's been spying and reading letters.
Now, my dear sir, I will tell you very shortly what I propose. I know you have heard I am a smuggler. I am. It's easy to run a smuggling trade here because no one can patrol the marshes or stop men using the secret path that only I and a few others know. On favourable nights, I send out a signal, or rather, Block does it for me.
So it was Block.
Then, when the goods arrive, I dispose of them.
Why are you telling me this? It's of no interest to me. I'm only interested in a plan for draining the marshes, not in smuggling goods across them.
Exactly, my dear fellow. I know that. I have even seen your plans. But the draining of the marshes means the end of my business. My ships will no longer be able to slip in unseen, bringing valuable cargoes.
So why have you kidnapped me?
I know Mr. Lenoir is going to buy your plans from you. He hopes to make a lot of money by selling the land once it is drained. But that marsh is not going to be drained. I'm going to buy your plans.
Do you want to drain the marsh, then?
No. Your plans will be burnt. Name your price, dear sir, and sign this document making over all your plans to me.
I don't deal with madmen or with rogues. This is what I think of your document, Mr. Barling.
Hooray! Good for you, Uncle Quentin.
Where's my rope? I'll thrash you for that.
That's all right, Block. Thrash him, and then this obstinate fool. We'll soon bring them to their senses. A good thrashing and a few days here in the dark, without any food.
Right.
Oh, ow!
This'll teach you. Ooh. Ow! 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 Barling, help me! Ow! Ow! Ow!
Timmy! Oh, Timmy! Good dog! Bite him again, Timmy! Hard!
Ow! Oh! Oh, I'm getting out of here!
Oh, well done, Timmy, well done! What a good dog you are. There you go.
Did you find the way out of the secret passage you were in? You must be starved. Look, here's some food. Uncle Quentin, Timmy could take us safely back to Smuggler's Top, couldn't he? Can you take us home, old boy? Home to George?
Timmy ran down the passage a little, but soon came back. He didn't like the idea of going down there. Mr. Barling and Block might be waiting for them all. They were not likely to give in so easily. But Timmy knew other ways about the tunnels. So he set off in the darkness with Uncle Quentin's hand on his collar and Sooty following close behind. It wasn't easy or pleasant, especially for Uncle Quentin, who was dressed only in pyjamas. Back at Smuggler's Top, Mr. Lenoir, having found out that Block hadn't been in his bed, was suddenly convinced that Block was a spy put into his house by Mr. Barling. Then Julian told him of the way through the window seat and how they had seen Mr. Barling and Block in the underground tunnels.
Good heavens! Barling must be mad! This is a plot. They must have heard what I'm planning with your uncle and want to stop me. Oh la la, this is serious.
If only we had Timmy.
Who's Timmy?
Well, I may as well tell you everything, Mr. Lenoir. Timmy's my dog. I'm afraid, well, you could say I smuggled him into the house. He's somewhere in those secret passages, and I don't know where.
Oh, it's very foolish of you. If you had told me, I would have had someone in the town look after him. I can't help not liking dogs. I detest them.
But could I go and see if I could find Timmy? We know the way into the secret passage from your study.
So, that's why you are hiding there. Well, go and find him if you like, but don't let him anywhere near me.
We won't.
Soon they were all squeezing through the panel into the narrow passage that led up to Sooty's bedroom. But Timmy was not there. Then George remembered Sooty telling them there was a way into other passages and thought Timmy must have somehow got through. So they went back and, as they walked behind the dining room wall, they noticed a small door. They went through it and found themselves in yet another passage. It suddenly sloped downwards and led them to the pit below the window seat.
Yes, look. There's the tunnel where we saw Block and Mr. Barling go.
Do you think they've done something to Timmy?
He'll be all right, I'm sure, George.
I hope so.
I say, look at this. String. There's some string leading all the way down this tunnel. So that's how Mr. Barling and Block find their way.
So it could lead to where they've taken Father and Sooty. I'm going to follow the string. Who's coming with me?
Oh, I'm
Me.
coming.
I'll lead the way. Follow me, everyone.
Someone's coming. Switch off your torch, Julian.
Footsteps. Do you think it's Uncle Quentin?
No, I don't think so.
Good heavens. Who's here? What are you doing here?
Mr. Barling! We came to look for my uncle and Sooty. Where are they?
Aren't they here? And is that horrible brute of a dog gone?
Was Timmy here? Where is he?
Do you mean you don't know where they are? If they've gone off on their own, they'll never come back.
It's all your fault, you horrid man.
Shut up, Anne. Mr. Barling, I think you'd better come back with us and explain things. Mr. Lenoir is talking to the police.
Oh, is he? Then it would be as well for us to stay down here. And you too. I'll make Mr. Lenoir squirm. I'll hold you all prisoners. Got some rope, Block?
Oh, Timmy! Timmy, where are you?
He's not here. Tie them up, Block.
You're mad. You must be mad to do things like this.
Mad, am I? I'll show you who's... Oh! I'll call him off, or he'll kill us!
Mr. Barling and Block fled. They disappeared into a dark tunnel, staggering around without a light, trying to find their way back. But they missed the string and went wandering away in the darkness, groaning and terrified. The children, however, had a lantern, 2 torches, and Timmy to guide them. He led them easily down the tunnel to where Uncle Quentin and Sooty were.
Uncle Quentin! Sooty! Hello, here we are.
How did you get here? Did Timmy go back for you? He suddenly rushed off and left us here.
What happened?
Heaps.
Well, I suppose we ought to be getting back, or the police will be sending out bloodhounds to trace us all. Won't Mr. Lenoir be surprised to see us all turning up together?
I just wish I wasn't in pyjamas. I feel most peculiar walking around like this.
Soon they were all back at Smuggler's Top, and were they glad to be there. The household bustled round and got hot water for bathing Uncle Quentin's feet, a dressing gown for him, food for everyone, and hot drinks. It was really a most exciting time, and now that the thrills were over, the children felt rather important to be able to relate so much. Then the police came in, and the inspector asked a lot of questions. Mr. Lenoir was perhaps the most surprised person there. When he heard how Barling had actually offered to buy the plans for draining the marsh and admitted to being a smuggler, he sat back in his chair, unable to say a word. Well, we've tried to catch him in the smuggling business for many a time, but he was too artful. Fancy him planting Block here as a spy, sir, and using your tower for signalling. Bit of nerve, that. And Block isn't deaf after all. That was clever.
Do you think we ought to do something about Block and Mr. Barling? For all we know, they're still wandering about in that maze of tunnels, and they were bitten by Timmy.
Oh yes, that dog saved your lives, I should think. Sorry you don't like dogs, Mr. Lenoir, but you have to admit it was lucky he was there.
Yes, it was. Where is he, actually? I don't mind seeing him, just for a moment.
I'll get him.
Block never wanted dogs either. I suppose he was afraid they might bark at his comings and goings.
Very likely, sir.
Here he is. Mr. Lenoir, meet Timmy. Timmy, shake paws.
Shake? Oh, no, I don't think I could. No, you know how I detest dogs.
Go on.
All right, well, if I must. Oh, well, he doesn't seem like a dog at all. He's rather a fine fellow.
When the next day came, and no one had found Mr. Barling and Block in the maze of tunnels, the inspector asked George if she would let Timmy go down into the tunnels and hunt them out. So Timmy once more went underground into the hill and hunted for his enemies. He found them after a while, lost in the maze of passages, hungry and thirsty, in pain and frightened. He took them like sheep to where the police waited for them. And after that, Mr. Barling and his friends disappeared from public life for quite a long time.
The police must be glad to have got them at last. They have tried to stop this smuggling for a long time. When Block found out about my ideas for draining the marsh, Barling was afraid that would be the end of all his excitement. No more smuggling. Do you know the police have found a cave full of smuggled goods inside the hill? Well, if you'll excuse me, I must get on with my work.
We're leaving Smuggler's Top. Did you know?
Really?
Yes. Mother was so upset when I disappeared. She made Father promise he'd sell the place and leave if I came back safe and sound. Mother's thrilled.
So am I. I don't like Smuggler's Top. It's too weird and lonely.
Well, if it makes you happy to leave it, I'm glad. But I like it. I think it's a lovely place, set on a hilltop like this, with mists at its foot and secret ways all around. I'd be sorry never to come again.
So will I.
Me too.
It's an adventurous place, isn't it, Timmy? Do you like it, Timmy? Have you enjoyed your adventure here?
Well, now perhaps we'll have a nice peaceful time. I don't want any more adventures.
Oh, but we do!
And no doubt they'll get them. Adventures always come to the adventurous. There's no doubt about that. Five Get Into a Fix by Enid Blyton. The four children were thinking that the Christmas holidays were the worst they'd ever had. George had come to stay with Julian, Dick and Anne, and all of them had gone down with awful colds and coughs. Timmy was the only one who didn't get ill. Anne went to the window. It had been snowing again, but not much. To think how they might have been out in it all last week had it not been for their colds. George joined her at the window. A car drew up outside, and a burly man got out and hurried up the steps to the front door. It was the doctor. In a minute or two, the door opened, and he came into the room with the mother of Julian, Dick and Anne. She looked tired, and no wonder. Looking after four ill children and a most miserable dog over Christmas had not been an easy job. The doctor suggested that what would do them most good would be to spend a week somewhere bracing, but not too cold, perhaps somewhere hilly where they could toboggan and ski. The children all thought it was a wonderful idea, but they couldn't think of where to go. Then, as so often happens, the problem was solved by somebody no one had thought of asking. Jenkins, the old man who helped in the garden, who came in carrying a basket of apples. He had an aunt who had a hillside farm in Wales, close to the sea. She let rooms in summer, but Jenkins didn't know whether she would in winter, because there would be nothing but snow there now. It sounded exactly what the children wanted. Everything was soon settled. Their mother agreed to telephone Mrs. Jones, Jenkins's aunt, and she seemed delighted to take the children. 2 days later, everything was packed, including skis and toboggans, and they were off. They had a hired car with a cheerful, chatty driver, but it was a long drive, and the children fell asleep in the car. Then at long last, they were in Wales, with mountains beginning to loom up in the distance.
We must be nearly there by now.
You should think so.
There's a signpost that says Kimrilly or something.
Oh, that's Welsh. It's pronounced Cwmrili.
Oh, I see. Well, shouldn't we be looking out for Maggot Glen now?
Yes, we must be getting on that way. I've been looking for a signpost myself. I wonder I haven't seen it yet.
Goodness, I hope we haven't lost our way. It will soon be dark. Are you sure we're right? The road seems to be getting a bit rough, and we haven't passed a farmhouse for ages.
Well, maybe we are on the wrong road. Though where we took the wrong turning, I simply don't know. I reckon we're near the sea now.
Look, there's a turning up to the right. It's got a signpost too. Doesn't say Maggot Glen though. It says Old Towers. Would that be a name of a place, do you think? Or a building? Where's a map?
I haven't got one. I don't usually need one, but this countryside isn't signposted as it should be. Oh, well, I guess we'd better turn right and go up to see this Old Towers. Maybe they can put us on the right road.
What a steep road. It's quite a mountain, isn't it?
You can say that again. The old car's struggling to get up here, I can tell you.
Oh, I see something. There's a building on the side of the hill. You can see it against the moon. It's got towers too. This must be it.
There's a sign on the gate.
Keep out, it says.
Well, that's nice and polite, isn't it?
We only want to ask the way. I'll hop out and find someone. The gates are padlocked, but I could climb over. There's a light up ahead. Oh!
Jump in. We'd better turn round and go, I think. Phew. I'm glad we're this side of those gates.
Shh, Timmy.
That dog of yours is almost as bad.
He's not.
Well, you know what I mean.
The people there must be jolly scared of burglars to have a dog like that. Yet it's such a lonely place. You wouldn't think many people will come near it.
Well, I shan't be. You can count on that. Let's go. It's funny.
What is?
Something wrong with the car. Seems very heavy to drive all of a sudden, as if I've got my brakes on.
Perhaps you have.
Well, I haven't. I should have going down this hill. I'm pushing the accelerator down hard now, and she still crawls. Now, what can be the matter?
It really was a puzzle. Julian felt worried. He didn't want them to have to spend the night in the car, lost in the countryside, especially as it was now beginning to snow lightly. The moon had disappeared behind heavy clouds, and everything looked very dark indeed. They reached the bottom of the hill at last, and came onto level ground. Everyone was most relieved as the car sped along like a bird. They came to a signpost not long after that, and the cars slid to a stop beside it. Magga Glen, it said, and everyone gave a shout of delight. The driver swung his car into the lane. It was obviously a farm road. And there, up the hill they were climbing, was a house.
This must be it.
Oh no! More dogs!
There's a woman come to the door.
That must be Mrs. Jones, Jenkins' aunt.
Come in! Come in out of this cold and snow. Morgan will help you with the luggage. Come on, through here, into the warm now. What a journey for you. Oh, there's a cough you've got. Never you worry. The air here will soon get rid of that, see if it doesn't. But now, it's supper you'll be wanting.
Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry we're so late. We lost our way. This is my sister Anne, this is my cousin George, and this is my brother Dick.
And this is Timmy.
Well now, there's good manners in a dog, holding his paw out like that. We've 7 dogs, but not one of them would shake hands. No, not if the Queen herself came here.
Yes, we heard.
They're all outside, so don't you worry. Now then, go and wash while I make a pot of tea. Go through that door, look, and up the stairs. The rooms up there are all yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones. And after supper, I think if we may, we'd like to go straight to bed. It's been a long drive.
That's a good idea. I've lit nice log fires in your rooms, so you'll keep lovely and warm. Then, tomorrow, you can get up when you like and just come into my kitchen when you're down. You can do just what you like here.
The 4 children slept like logs all night long. If they coughed, they didn't know it. They lay in their beds, hardly moving, and only Timmy opened an eye occasionally, as he always did on the first night in a strange place. Julian awoke first in the morning. He heard the sounds of the farm, coming through the closed window, and looked at his watch. Good gracious, it was almost 9 o'clock. He leapt out of bed and woke Dick, and then went to wash. The bedroom was still warm with the burnt-out wood fires. The sun shone, but in the night the snow must have fallen heavily, for everywhere was white. The girls were already awake, for Timmy had heard the boys stirring and gone whining to the door. They all went downstairs and found the living room warm with a great wood fire. On the table was a big crusty loaf, butter and homemade marmalade, with an enormous jug of creamy milk.
I say, look at the cream on top of this milk. Me for a farm life when I grow up.
Timmy approves too.
He's heard those other dogs outside.
Well, you'll have to remember you're just a visitor, Timmy, when you meet them. No throwing your weight around.
There they are, over by the barn. They look pretty big dogs. Welsh collies, I should think. I wonder what that dog was that barked so fiercely last night at Old Towers. Do you remember?
How could we forget? It was like a nasty dream.
Ah, here comes breakfast. Mrs. Jones, you've brought enough for 8 people, not 4.
Oh, there, you're growing children. And this is one of mine, my son Morgan.
Good morning.
Morgan's not much of a one for talking, but the voice he's got when he's angry. I'm telling the truth when I say you could hear him a mile away. Here we are, ham and eggs for you 2 girls. Put the boys' plates down there, Morgan. Those are Morgan's dogs you can hear barking. 3 of them there are. They go about with my Morgan everywhere, don't they, Morgan? Yeah. He's all for dogs, my Morgan is. Doesn't care much for people. He's got 4 more dogs on the hills with the sheep. And believe you me, if Morgan went out in the yard and shouted, those 4 dogs on the hills would hear him and come tearing down here like a flash of lightning. Anyway, you enjoy your breakfasts. Call me if you want anything. Come on, Morgan.
He's huge, isn't he? Like a giant.
Shh, they're coming back.
Hello. Just popped in to say I'm off.
Oh, it's you, driver. Did you stay the night then?
Yes, the old lady gave me a bed in the barn. Never been so cosy in my life. And I say, I found out why the car crawled so slowly up and down that hill at Old Towers last night.
Oh, have you? Why?
Well, it wasn't anything to do with the car. It was to do with the hill.
Whatever do you mean?
The shepherd's wife told me they think there must be something magnetic under that hill, because when the postman goes up on his bicycle, the same thing happens. It feels like lead, so he leaves his bike at the bottom and walks up.
I see. So the magnetic whatever it is got hold of the car last night. There must be some deposit of powerful metal in that hill. Does it affect all cars like that?
Oh, yes. No one goes up there in a car if they can help it. Funny thing, isn't it? Odd hill altogether, if you ask me.
I wonder who lives there.
Only an old lady. She's off her head, so they say. Won't let anyone in. Well, we know that all right, don't we?
Yeah.
Anyway, must be pushing off now. You enjoy yourselves.
We will. Thanks.
Bye, then.
Bye.
After breakfast, they wandered round the farm, enjoying the pale sun and the keen wind, and hardly coughed at all. George slipped the lead off Timmy's collar, and he ran off, sniffing here, there, and everywhere. He disappeared around a corner, his tongue hanging out happily. And then the most appalling barking began. The four rushed round the corner of the barn, and there was poor Timmy growling at three fierce dogs. George raced to Timmy and yelled at the dogs, but they took no notice of her. It was Timmy they wanted. Who was this strange dog who dared to come wandering round their home? Suddenly Timmy gave a sharp yelp. He'd been bitten. Someone came rushing round the corner. It was Mrs. Jones. She called the dogs, but they took no notice of her either. And then from somewhere came a voice that echoed all round the farmhouse, as if it had come through a megaphone.
Thank God! That was Morgan. He must have heard the barking. Oh, my little dear, are you hurt?
No, I don't know. I don't think so. It's Timmy that's hurt. Oh, Tim, where did they bite you? His neck. Look, he's dripped blood on the snow.
Let's see. It's not much, George. The other dog bit where his collar is. Look, his teeth went through the collar and not really into Tim's neck.
Oh, but what a thing to happen. Why did you let him off the lead? You should have waited until Morgan had told his dogs your Timmy was a friend.
I know. It was all my fault. Oh, Timmy, I'm so thankful you've only got one small bite. Do you have any TCP, Mrs. Jones?
I'll have some inside. Come away in.
Timmy, oh, my poor Timmy.
He wouldn't mind having stuff dabbed on him all day long, George, if you'd only make a fuss of him.
He might have been killed, and if those dogs get him again, he certainly will be. I'm going to go back home. Not to your home, Jew, but to my own, Kieran Cottage.
Oh, don't be silly, George. Anyone would think that Tim had been injured for life. He's only got a skin wound. Why spoil what may be a jolly good holiday just for that?
I don't trust those dogs. They'll be out to get Tim now. I know they will. I tell you, I'm going home.
George, listen. Stay one more day. It'll be difficult to make arrangements for you to go back today, now that everywhere is under snow.
All right. I'll stay till tomorrow. It will give Timmy a bit of time to get over his fright, but only till tomorrow.
Well, after you've seen to Timmy, I vote we go for a walk. It's a shame to stick indoors on such a nice snowy day like this. Anne, are you coming?
I will if George does. No, I'll stay with Tim this morning. You go off together.
The boys left the two girls and went out into the invigorating mountain air. Already they felt better and were not coughing at all. What a pity this had happened. It had spoiled things for everyone. Mrs. Jones told them the best path to take for a walk up the mountain. She also gave them the key to her mountain chalet, where they could rest before coming back. Away they went, whistling. It was fun to have the day all to themselves. As they climbed higher, they could see the tops of more and more hills, all of which sparkled snowy white in the pale January sun. The view was magnificent. They were glad when they came at last to the chalet Mrs. Jones had spoken about. After 2 hours climbing, it was nice to think of having a good rest. Julian slipped the key into the lock, and they went inside. It was a fine little place indeed, with bunk beds, a stove, cupboards full of crockery, and tins of food. The two boys had the same idea at once.
Couldn't we...
What?
Couldn't we stay here on our own? George would love it too.
I'm sure she would.
There's bedding, towels, crockery, cutlery, tins of food, everything we need.
Do you think we'd be allowed to come up here instead of living down at the farm?
Well, we can ask, but right now I could do with something to eat, couldn't you? I'm ravenous.
So am I. Let's have some of those biscuits.
All right.
I'm going to get a rug and wrap it round me and sit down on the doorstep. That view is too marvellous for words.
Yes, let's.
Is that a house on the slope over there? Near the top?
I don't see how it can be. Besides, who would build a house so high up?
Plenty of people. Not everyone likes towns and shops and traffic. I can imagine an artist building a house on one of those mountains, just for the view.
Who's that?
What sort of artist, you mean?
No, who's that coming down the path?
Where? Oh, yes. It's a small girl by the looks of it. She must be cold. She's only got a shirt and a pair of shorts on.
And what's that with her? It's a dog and a lamb.
She's seen us.
No, don't go. We shan't hurt you. Get some of those biscuits, Dick.
Look, biscuits. For you and your dog.
Oh no, it's the lamb that's coming over.
I'll hold on to it. Fanny! Fanny! Come and get it. We shan't hurt you.
Isn't she a funny little thing?
What's your name?
She doesn't seem to understand.
What is your name?
Me, Ailey. This Di.
Good dog, Di. Have another biscuit.
And the lamb's called Fanny.
I'm Julian. He's called Dick.
My da, he up high. Sheep.
Oh, your father's a shepherd.
Di mine. Fanny mine. Me go now.
What a funny little creature. We'll ask Mrs. Jones about her when we get back.
My goodness, come on. The sun's getting quite low. We've got to put the things away and lock up yet. Buck up. Once the sun goes, it'll be dark almost at once. And we've got a long way to go.
It didn't take them long to tidy up and lock the little house. Then down the path they went at top speed. The boys felt exhilarated by their day on the mountainside and sang as they went all the way back to the farmhouse. They told the girls about their day, and when they described the little mountain chalet, the two girls listened eagerly. Then Julian told them of their idea of all 5 of them spending their time in the chalet instead of in the farmhouse. Anne agreed at once, and they all looked at George, who suddenly smiled and said that she would like that too. They put the idea to Mrs. Jones, who thought they would be most uncomfortable with no one to look after them and cook for them, but they insisted they were used to looking after themselves and would have a smashing time. Mrs. Jones still thought it was a funny idea, but said she would have a talk to Herr Morgan about it and let him decide. She went out of the room shaking her head, her mouth pursed up in disapproval. But Morgan said to let them go. He said they'd be safe enough, and with the snow coming, there'd be plenty of chance to use their toboggans. He also said he'd help them with their things.
Now, are you sure you've got everything you'll be needing?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Jones. We've got plenty.
There's butter packed in with the loaves and a large pot of cream for you. I'll try and send up some more milk with the shepherd. He'll pass the hut, see, when he goes up again. And you can always boil snow if you want to make tea, can't you?
We'll be fine.
I've packed some bones and dog biscuits for Timmy too. Look.
That's very kind of you.
Oh, I just want to make sure you'll be all right. Ah, here's my Morgan now. He's brought his snow slide with him. You can put everything on that.
Morning.
Shall I take one of the ropes?
Ha!
Strong as a horse, my Morgan. He'll pull it all easily. You see if he won't. Pile it all on.
Here we are.
It looks wonderful.
It is.
Oh, it's a proper little house inside. Quick, Julian, where's the key?
Morgan's got it. Thanks so much for helping bring up our things.
Shepherd comes by at times. He'll take messages for you if you want. I'll leave you now.
He's peculiar. I don't know whether I like him or not.
What does it matter? Come on, there's plenty to do. What about you and George seeing what blankets and things are in those cupboards?
Right. Yes, there's plenty of everything here. The stove looks as if it's full too.
Good. We'll light it tonight. Let's get packed away and then we can go out.
Do you want something to eat before we go? Or shall we have a meal when we get back?
Oh, let's just take some sandwiches.
I wonder if Tim will like travelling downhill on a toboggan, George.
Oh, he'll love it, I bet.
Dick took George on his toboggan, and Julian took Anne on his. Timmy was terribly excited. He came plunging down the hillside after the toboggans, barking madly. The four children soon had glowing faces and tingling limbs, and wished they could throw off their coats and scarves. After a while they decided they'd had enough, and sat down at the top of the slope eating their sandwiches. They were glad of the rest.
Pity Mother can't see us now. Nobody's coughed once. I bet we'll be stiff tomorrow, though.
I will, I know that.
What about you, Dick?
What? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said pity Mother can't see us now, without our coughs. What are you looking at?
Over there. The building I thought I saw yesterday, on the opposite hill. Isn't that a chimney sticking up?
You've got sharp eyes. Nobody could see a building that far away when the snow's on it.
Wait a minute. I've got my binoculars. Here, take a look, Dick.
Yes, I was right. It is a building. And I'm pretty sure it must be old towers too.
Let's see.
Here.
Yes, that's the place. I caught a glimpse of the towers on the way up the hill. What is it, boy? There's someone coming. It's a woman.
I wonder what she wants.
We'll soon find out. Hello? Can we help you?
Good day. You'll be the boys my Ailey was telling me of last night.
You're Ailey's mother?
That I am. And you're staying in the Joneses' hut then, are you?
Yes. We were staying at the farm first, but now we've come up here.
Well, if you see that Ailey of mine, tell her not to stay out tonight. Her and her lamb. She's as mad as the old lady over there in Old Towers.
Oh, do you know anything about that old place? We went to it by mistake and...
You didn't get into it, I'll be bound. And to think I used to go up there 3 times a week, and never anything but kindness shown me. And now old Mrs. Thomas, she won't see a soul. Poor old lady. She's out of her mind, they say.
Why do they have such a fierce dog there, though?
Ah, well, young man, some of the old lady's friends would like to know what's going on too. But nobody can do a thing. It's a strange place now, with noises at night, and mists, and shimmerings, and... Oh, you may smile, young man, but ever since last October there have been strange goings-on there. And what's more, vans have been there in the dead of night. What for, I'd like to know? If you ask me, I reckon they've been taking away the poor old thing's belongings, furniture and pictures and things. Poor Mrs. Thomas, she was sweet and kind, and now I don't know what's happened to her.
Oh, now look, I shouldn't be telling you all this. You'll be scared sleeping alone at night.
No, we shan't. Honest. Do tell us about Hayley, though. Isn't she frozen going about with just shorts and a shirt on?
Oh, that child, she's the one. Runs about the hills like a wild thing. Plays truant from school. Goes to see her father. He's a shepherd. Doesn't come home at nights. You tell her there's a good scolding waiting for her at home if she doesn't come back tonight.
Well, if we see her, we'll certainly tell her to go home. But not about the scolding, because I expect she wouldn't go home then.
As you like. Well, I'll be off now. Enjoy yourselves. And don't be scared about what I said.
We won't. Bye.
Bye.
It was getting dark by now, and the four went inside. Dick suggested they play a game of cards, so they all sat down to play Snap. But soon Dick's cards had all been snapped by the others. He yawned and went to the window looking out into the darkness that hid all the snowy hills. Then he stood tense for a moment, staring in surprise. On the opposite hill, where Old Towers was, the air was shimmering. It seemed to be all the colours of a rainbow, rising high into the sky and then disappearing. He called to the others, but by the time they rushed to join him, it had gone. They all gazed towards the opposite hill, hoping something would happen, but nothing did. The sky was pitch black, for heavy clouds had come up, and the distant hill couldn't be seen. They played some more cards after that, then had a meal. Finally they decided it was time for bed. One by one they fell asleep. The oil stove burned steadily. It was turned low, and shadows quivered on the ceiling and walls. And then something made Timmy's ears prick up as he lay asleep at George's feet. Timmy sat up straight and growled in his throat. Then he barked sharply.
Shh! What's the matter, Tim?
What? What's up, George?
Something's disturbed Tim.
Must be someone prowling around outside.
Wait. I think I heard something.
What is it, Anne?
There! Can you hear it?
No? Yes! What is it? What's happening now?
The whole place is shuddering!
It's as if we were shivering in every part of us, sort of vibrating as if we had a tiny dynamo engines working inside us.
Yes, you've described it exactly. It's just like putting my hand on something working by electricity. You know the sort of vibrations you feel then.
It's gone. It's not shuddering anymore. And I can't hear that grumbling noise now. Can you?
No. How strange it stopped like that.
It must be something to do with that curious shimmering I saw in the sky over Old Towers Hill earlier. Let's have a look. Look! Look, everybody! Phew! Come and look!
What is it? It's like a glowing mist, swirling over the hill.
What a strange colour. Not red, not yellow, not orange. What colour is it?
I call this jolly strange. No wonder Ailey's mother told us those stories.
It's funny that both the shimmering and that cloud are over Old Towers Hill. You don't think it's something that's happening in Old Towers house, do you?
No, of course not. What could happen there that would make us feel the effects here?
They awoke late the next morning, for they'd been tired out with their exertions the day before. Julian leapt out of his bunk when he found out it was 10 to 9 and dressed quickly. He went out to get some snow to put into the kettle. Soon breakfast was ready, and they were all eating and chattering, talking over the happenings of the night. And as they sat round the table, Timmy ran to the door and began to bark. Then a face looked in at the window. It was a remarkable face, old and wrinkled, yet curiously young-looking too. The eyes were as blue as a summer's day. It was a man's face, with a long, raggedy beard and a moustache.
Gracious! He looks like one of the old prophets out of the Bible. Who is he?
The shepherd, I expect. We'll ask him in for a cup of cocoa. Maybe he can answer a few questions for us. Are you the shepherd?
Come in. We're having breakfast. You can have some too if you like.
You are kind. You want to send words to the farm?
Oh, yes, please. Take a message to the farm. Just say we're fine, all is well.
All is well. All is well.
That's right. Here, have some bread and cheese.
No, I won't eat now. I would like a drink, please. This morning is cold.
I'll get it.
Thank you.
Shepherd, did you by any chance hear curious noises last night? And did you see a coloured mist over the hill there?
It has always been a strange hill, that one. My grandad told me a big dog lay below, growling for food.
Here's your cocoa.
Thank you.
We heard the big dog growling last night.
Ah, yes, but the dog is worse now. More evil, more wicked.
More wicked? How?
I'm not clever. I know few things. My sheep and the wind and the sky. But I know that the hill is wicked. You must not go near it, young ones. For there the plough will not plough, the spade will not dig.
What do you mean?
I go and take your words to Mrs. Jones now. And thank you for your kindness. Good day.
Well, what a character. And what did he mean about ploughs not ploughing?
Well, it may be that in the old days, ploughs went too heavily and too slowly to plough properly. Remember how our car wouldn't go down the hill fast? And Ailey's mother said the postman had to leave his bike at the bottom of the hill.
But why? Surely you don't believe these things.
Anne doesn't want to believe. Come on, let's forget the weird happenings last night and get out our skis. A bit of skiing will do us good.
Timmy didn't find skiing any fun at all. He couldn't keep up with the others when they tore down the hill at top speed. The 4 children had all skied before and were quite good at it. The hill down which they went was very long and had a fine slope. It ran smoothly into the upward slope of the next hill, on which Old Tower's house had been built.
I say, what about going to the top of this hill and skiing down and partly up our own slope again? It would give us a jolly good second ski run.
I'm not sure I want to.
She's scared of going up Old Towers Hill. Are you afraid of the big, big dog who lies under it and growls in the night, Anne?
Don't be silly.
Well, come on then.
I'm coming. Look, you can see Old Towers quite clearly now.
I wonder if that old lady is still there. Mrs. Thomas. The one Ailey's mother used to work for.
Poor old thing. I'm sorry for her if she is.
Almost at the top now. We'll wait for the others, then have a race.
Julian, look!
What?
Is that someone at one of the tower windows? The one on the right?
Where? Oh, I see. Yes. Yes, it looks like...
Hey! You kids! Get off this slope!
We're only skiing.
I don't care. This field belongs to the house, and I'm the caretaker, so keep off it.
We'll ask permission from the owner then.
No, you won't. There's no one here but me. Now be off with you, or I'll set my dog on you.
Let's go, George.
The children were puzzled. Why should it matter if they skied down that particular slope? And why did the caretaker tell a lie and say there was no one else there when they'd seen someone in the tower window? They went back to the chalet, and there, standing in the snow outside it, were 2 quarts of milk and a large parcel with cold roast pork in it that the shepherd had brought up for them. They had just finished their meal when Ailey appeared at the window with her lamb. She wasn't shy this time, and didn't run away when Julian opened the door. Anne offered the untidy little girl some of the meat, but she shook her head and pointed to the cheese. She looked on in delight as Anne cut her a generous piece and sat down on the floor to eat it.
Gusta! What's she say?
I think she's saying the cheese is good. Where did you sleep last night, Hayley? Your mother was looking for you.
In hay? At my farm?
Ailey, listen. Who lives at Old Towers?
Many people. Big dog. More big than him.
Anyone else?
Old lady. She throw me paper out of window.
What do you mean, paper?
Paper with words on it.
What's it say?
Ailey not know.
She can't read. Never mind, Ailey. We'll read it for you. Do you have the paper?
Yeah.
I am a prisoner here in my own house. They have killed my son. Help me. Bronwyn Thomas.
Good gracious! Should we show it to the police?
How do we know it's true? The old lady might be off her head, as they say.
How can we find out whether it's true or not, then?
Hayley, we want to see the old lady. Will you show us the way into the grounds?
No. Big dog. Big teeth. Ailey show the way into house.
Into the house? But you'd have to go through the grounds first.
No. Ailey show you.
Is that Ailey in there? Come on out, my girl.
It's your mother, Ailey.
Ailey not want to go.
I'm afraid you'll have to.
I'm taking Ailey home. I'll scold her well.
No.
Poor Ailey.
She'll be all right.
What do we do now?
I think we'd better go down to the farm and tell Morgan what we know. If this old lady really is a prisoner, I don't see how we can do a thing. But he might be able to. Come on, let's go down now. We can stay at the farm if it gets dark.
George did not particularly want to go down to the farm, as she was afraid of Timmy meeting the farm dogs again. Anne offered to stay with her, so the two boys set off together down the winding mountain path. Morgan was in the old barn. His 3 dogs at once ran out when they heard strange footsteps, but they recognized the boys at once and leapt around, barking at them. The giant-like Morgan came out to see what the dogs were barking about. He was surprised to find the 2 boys there fondling the dogs. Julian told him his story. He told him about the rumbling noises, the shimmering in the sky, and the shuddering. Then he told him about the old woman they had seen in the tower, and how Ailey had given them the piece of paper which said Mrs. Thomas was a prisoner in her own house.
And where is this paper?
Here!
I see. Well, I'll hold on to this.
I'd rather like it back. Unless you want to show it to the police.
You leave it to me. This matter is not for children. You must go back to the hut and forget all you have heard and seen. And if Ailey comes, bring her down here to me, and I'll talk to her.
But Morgan, aren't you going to do anything about this? Go to the police or...
I have told you. This is not a matter for children. If you are not willing to go back to the hut and say nothing, you will go home tomorrow.
Well, what do you make of that? Come on, let's get back to the hut.
But I can't make it out, Ju. Why was he so annoyed about it all?
Well, if you ask me, I think he knows much more than we were able to tell him. There's some kind of racket going on at Old Towers, and Morgan is in it. That's why he told us not to interfere.
Julian, what do you think is going on at Old Towers? I mean, it isn't only a question of locking up an old lady in a tower and selling her goods and taking the money. It's all the other things too. The shudderings and that strange mist.
Well, apparently those things have been going on for some time. They may have had nothing to do with what Morgan is mixed up in, which is, I'm sure, to do with robbing the old lady. In fact, those old tales may be a very good way of keeping people away from the place.
It sounds very convincing when you put it like that. But somehow I don't feel convinced. I can't help feeling there's something we don't know.
When Julian and Dick got back to the chalet, the 4 children sat and talked for a long time. What would be the best thing to do? And how would they even begin to do anything? For one thing, they didn't know how to get into the house. No one was going to risk a battle with that fierce dog. At that moment, Timmy suddenly began to bark. Now what was up? George went to the door and was about to open it when she heard another dog barking, just beyond the hut. There was Morgan. He passed by the window, and they saw his great shoulders and head bent against the wind as he went up the hill towards where the shepherd lived. The children felt uncomfortable about Ailey. Probably Morgan had gone up to the shepherd to complain about her. None of them felt like playing cards just then. They sat and talked, wondering if they would hear Morgan coming back. They knew Timmy would bark if he did. Sure enough, he began to bark about 8:30 and made them all jump. They all watched for Morgan's head to pass the window again, but it didn't. Neither did any dog bark outside. Then George saw that Timmy was sitting with his ears pricked up and his head on one side. What could he hear? The countryside seemed to be absolutely quiet at that moment. Suddenly he ran to the door and whined, scraping at it with his paw.
What's up, Timmy? Shall we open the door, Julian?
I'll go. Ailey! What on earth? What are you doing here? You look frozen. Come into the warm.
I'll make some hot cocoa. Poor little thing. What made her come all this way so late at night?
She must have gone home with her mother and probably got a good telling off. And then my guess is that Morgan went down to see if she was there and to scold her.
Morgan, no.
It's all right. We'll look after you. Morgan shan't get you. See, I bet I'm right. It was he who went and scared her. I expect she escaped from her mother's house and came up here to hide. That horrible fellow. If he shouted at her as he shouted at us, she'd be scared stiff.
That may be Morgan coming back. Hide, Ailey, for goodness sake.
Up into the top bunk, Ailey. Quick, I'll cover you with the rug. Just lie still. I'm going to lock the door. I'm not having Morgan in here hunting for Ailey.
I can hear those dogs of his now, Julian. For goodness sake, don't let them in here.
I know. Let's sit around a table and pretend to be playing a game. Then if Morgan looks in, he'll think everything is normal. He won't guess we've got Ailey here.
Good idea, Dick. Come on, everyone.
Now, if I suddenly say, "What ho!" you know I can see Morgan at the window, and you must play like anything. See?
Snap! I say don't grab like that. Snap!
Snap!
I said it first.
What ho!
Snap! Where is he?
He's gone from the window now. But go on playing. He may come to the door.
Who's there?
Morgan, let me in.
No, we've got our dog here, and we don't want him set on again.
Well, if you see Ailey, send her home. She's gone again and her mum's worried.
Right. If she comes, we'll give her a bed here.
No, you send her home. And pay heed to what I told you down at the barn, or it'll be the worse for all of us.
For all of us? I like that. It will certainly be the worse for him and his friend when the secret's out. Has he gone, Tim?
I can hear his dogs in the distance. We can get Ailey down now. Ailey, Morgan is gone. Come down and have a meal.
Ailey, thank you for saving from Morgan. Ailey tell how to get into big house now.
You'll tell us?
Big hole. Down, down, down.
Where's this big hole?
Ailey tell you. No, Ailey show. Come.
No, not now. Not in the snow and dark. Tomorrow. Show us in the morning.
Not now. In the morning, yes. Ailey show in the morning.
Next morning, everyone was awake early. They had slept well and were excited to think that an adventure lay ahead. To get into that old house with its many secrets would be marvellous. They set off at last. The snow was still falling, and Julian felt seriously doubtful whether they'd be able to find their way down the hill and up the other slope. The toboggans were rather crowded. Julian and Dick were on the first one, with Ailey and her lamb between them, and Anne and George were on the second one, with Timmy and Ailey's dog Di between them. Whoosh went the toboggans, down the slope to the bottom and up the opposite slope. The snowflakes were quite big now, and nothing that was more than a few yards away could be seen. Ailey stood there, her feet sinking into the snow. She looked all round, and Julian felt certain that she was going to say that she didn't know which way to go in this thick snow. Even he was rather doubtful which was the way back up the hill. But Ailey was like a dog. She had a sure sense of direction, and could go from one place to another on a dark night or in the snow without any difficulty at all. They all set off up the rest of the slope of Old Towers Hill. Then Ailey gave a call and pointed to the right. In about a minute, Ailey suddenly leapt off the toboggan and stood there, looking around with a frown. Then she began to scrape down through the snow. Timmy obligingly went to help her, imagining that she was after rabbits or a hidden hare.
Timmy, you take Timmy. He'll fall down like Di one day.
I say, I believe she's looking for an old pothole.
Hole. See? Big hole. I'll find for you. She has to.
Well, certainly you found your hole. But how does it get us into Old Towers?
Go down. Yes. Ailey, show the way.
Well, we'd better go down if it's possible.
See? Ailey's lamb knows the way. She's jumped into the hole. Here, wait, Ailey. You can't jump too. You'll hurt yourself. Ailey, here. You come quick. Julian, shine your torch down.
It's a pretty good drop. I know. Pull the toboggans over the hole and let their ropes hang down into it. Then we can climb down safely. She's disappeared. Wait a minute. A tunnel. Hurry up, everyone. I bet we're heading for Old Towers.
This tunnel probably goes right under the fence and the grounds and comes up by the house.
But where's Ailey got to?
I don't know. Ailey, where are you?
There she is.
This way?
We must be under the house now. I wonder if...
Cellars! We're in the cellars.
Look, the wall over there has been knocked down.
Let's investigate.
No, not go there. Bad men. Very bad men.
We have to see Ailey. Wait, what's that noise? It's a river. There's an underground river the other side of this wall. I bet it's flowing down through the mountain to the sea.
Bad men down there. Bang, bang. Big fires. Big noise. Come into the house, quick.
Gosh, this is extraordinary. What is going on here? We really shall have to find out.
Let's leave it for now, Jew. Come back and let's go into the house as Ailey says.
Ailey led them all unerringly back through the smashed walls, the musty cellars, and into some that looked as if they had recently been used as store places. They followed her up a long flight of stone cellar steps, through a great door, and into a perfectly enormous kitchen. Then she led them to a great hall, from which two wide stairways swept up, meeting above at an even wider landing. Ailey seemed quite at home in the house, and Dick wondered how many times she had let herself down into the pothole and come wandering in here. No wonder she spent so many nights away from home. She could always hide away in some corner of this big house. They followed her up the wide stairs, but Ailey would come no farther than the second floor. Now before them stretched a great picture gallery that led to another stairway at the far end. Ailey hung back and pointed to the pictures, each a portrait of some long-dead owner of the house. Ailey was afraid of these portraits, with their eyes, which appeared to follow her wherever she went. The 4 children and Timmy left Ailey curled up behind a curtain, with Di her dog and Fanny the lamb, and went softly along the gallery and up the stairs. Now they were in a long passage that ran from tower room to tower room. Which was the tower they wanted? It was very easy to find out. All of them had their doors open, but one.
This must be it.
Who knocks? Surely not you, Matthew. You have no manners. Unlock the door, and do not mock me with your knocking.
The key's in the door. Unlock it, Julian, quick.
And why have you come at this time in the morning, Matthew?
It isn't Matthew, it's us. We've come to set you free.
Who are you? Let me out of that door before Matthew comes. Let me out. Are those men here still? I feel faint. Oh, get me some water.
I will. Here you are.
Oh. But who are you? Oh, I must be going mad.
Mrs. Thomas? You are Mrs. Thomas, aren't you? Little Ailey, the shepherd's daughter, brought us here. She knew you were locked up.
But what has Ailey to do with this? It's another trick. Where are the men who killed my son? Those men that my Llewellyn brought here. They wanted to buy my house, but I wouldn't sell it. No, I wouldn't. Do you know what they said to me? They said that in this hill, far below my house, was a rare metal, a powerful metal worth a fortune. Oh, what did they call it now?
We don't.
Why should you know about it? You are only children. But I wouldn't sell it. No, not my house, nor the metal below it. So they asked my son, and he said no as I had. Then they took him away and killed him. And now they are at work below. Yes, I hear them. I feel my house shake. But who are you? And where is Matthew? He keeps me locked in my room. He told me about Llewellyn, my poor dead son. He is a wicked man, a wicked man.
Well, we'll leave you now, Mrs. Thomas, and send someone soon to bring you out of here.
What do you think you're doing, Julian, locking that poor old thing up again? Aren't we going to take her with us?
No, how can we? We must go to the police. In the meantime, I honestly think she'll be safer in that room than anywhere else. Come on, let's find Ailey.
You back?
Yes, we found Mrs. Thomas. She's locked in her room.
Man down there locked in too. He's very cross.
What man, Ailey?
Don't know. Ailey see him asleep in room. Close the door, lock it. He awake now. Shout and bang.
Matthew! I bet it's Matthew.
Let me out! Let me out, I say!
Matthew!
Who's out there? Who is that? If it's one of you men, you'll be sorry for it.
Matthew! This isn't one of the men. We've come to rescue Mrs. Thomas, and now we're going to the police to report all this, and to report that her son has been killed by the men working below this house.
Ha! The police can't do anything. Llewellyn the son isn't dead. He's alive and kicking, and he won't be pleased with you, whoever you are.
So why did you tell Mrs. Thomas he was dead?
What's that to you? Llewellyn told me to tell his mother that. The old lady wouldn't let him sell that stuff deep under the house, that's why. Now, who are you? Whoever you are, you let me out. You hear me? You let me out!
He sounds a bit mad. Best to leave him locked up, I'd say. We'd better get to the police as soon as we can. Come on, we'll go back the way we came.
Ignoring Matthew's yells and bangs, the children made their way through the kitchen and down the cellar steps, flashing their torches to light their way. They came to where the wall had been knocked down to get to the river, and stood there listening to the gurgling water. Suddenly Fanny the lamb skipped off and down the river tunnel. Ailey ran after her, as sure-footed as the lamb, hopping and skipping over the rough, rocky bank of the river. George was terrified that Ailey would fall in the blackness of the tunnel, and sent Timmy after her. But when, after 5 minutes, no one had come back, George started forward, flashing her torch on the rocky path beside the river. And she was gone before the boys could get hold of her. Julian, Dick and Anne had no alternative but to follow. It seemed like a bad dream to the 4 children, making their way over the rocky edge of the underground river. Quite suddenly, the tunnel widened tremendously, the river making a big, broad pool before it tore on down the tunnel again. The walls opened up into an enormous cave, half of which was water and the other half a stretch of rough, rocky floor. George was most astonished. She was even more astonished at other things she saw.
Rafts! I wonder what they're for. Funny, there doesn't seem to be anybody around. Timmy, there you are at last. Have you found Ailey? Ailey over here. Thank goodness. Here come the others now.
Isn't this amazing? I see what the idea is. Jolly clever, too. They're mining that precious metal down here somewhere and putting it on those rafts there, so that the underground river can take it straight down to the sea. I bet they've got barges or something waiting to take the stuff away at night.
Phew! Ingenious! And they count on strange noises and shudderings to keep people away.
Voices!
Where? Quick, everyone! Behind this crate! Can you see anything, Dick?
Yes. 2 men walking up the tunnel from the direction of the sea. One is Morgan.
Let's see. Who's the other? No, it's the shepherd. Ailey's father. Would you believe it? We always thought Morgan was mixed up in this, but...
The rumbling! But oh, doesn't it sound near? It's got right inside my head!
Let's follow Morgan and the shepherd. We can keep well in the shadows, and they won't hear us above this noise. You stay here, Ailey.
Ailey, wait!
Good. Right, let's see where they go.
This tunnel seems to be lit, but I can't see any lights.
I think it's the reflection of some great glare far below. Let's see.
That's the end of the tunnel down there. We're coming to the works, I bet. The mine where that strange metal is.
Let's see.
What's happened now? The rumbling stopped.
Look how light it is. See that glow? It's the same shimmering light I saw the other night.
It's like a dream.
Where are Morgan and the shepherd now? Look, there they are in that corner. Oh no, they're coming this way.
We'd better get back.
Quick, I can hear someone coming out the tunnel.
Where's Ailey now? We daren't leave her here.
Look out, it's Morgan!
What are you doing here? Come with us, quickly. You're in danger.
Do what he says, children. Ailey, what are you doing here?
She's with us.
I told you not to interfere. I was handling this fool of a boy. Quick, we must hide and hope the men will think we've gone down the tunnel. Now just stay there, behind those crates, all you kids. We will do what we can.
Julian, we've made fools of ourselves. Morgan was trying to find out the secret of old towers himself, with the help of the shepherd.
No wonder he was angry when he thought we were meddling in such a serious matter. Where's Morgan now? Can you see him?
No, but I can see the men. The first one looks pretty grim. He's got an iron bar in his hand.
The men came out cautiously, not sure how many people they were after. They advanced across the cave, 7 of them, all with weapons of some sort. 2 went up the upper river tunnel, 2 down the other one that led to the sea, and the others began to hunt among the crates. They found the children first. It was Ailey's fault. She gave a sudden scream of fright. The men pulled away the crates and found themselves looking at 5 children. But not for long. With a terrifying bark, Timmy flung himself on the first man. Then Morgan appeared and surprised another of the men. But there were too many of them. and more were now coming up from the tunnel at the back of the cave. The shepherd was soon overpowered, and his hands bound behind his back. Morgan fought for some time, but then had to surrender. He was like an angry bull, roaring with rage as 3 men tied his hands. The boss of the men came up and faced him.
You'll be sorry for this, Morgan. All our lives we've been enemies. You down at the farm and me here at Old Towers.
Where is your old mother? A prisoner in her own house. And who has robbed her? You, Llewellyn Thomas.
Ah! What do I care? You men, take those kids over there and bring him too.
You fool, Morgan.
If you think you can get along that tunnel with your hands tied, no, don't go after him. He'll fall into the river. And without his hands to help him, he'll drown. Serve him right.
I'm not planning to escape, Llewellyn Thomas. Right, Bob, Tang, come to me! Doon, Joel, right! Ball!
He's calling his dogs. He's calling his dogs.
Die, Bob, Tang, Doon, Joel, right, and haul!
At the last name, Morgan's voice began to crack. The shepherd raised his head in dismay. Morgan had overstrained that great voice of his. There was silence after that. Morgan called no more. The children felt scared and depressed, and Ailey began to whimper. The curious shuddering began to creep into everything again, and the boss turned sharply, giving some more orders. Then things took on a curious shimmer, as if a heat haze had spread everywhere. Suddenly, something happened. At first it sounded far off in the distance, a confused noise that made Timmy prick his ears. He barked, and the man holding him hit him. Now the sound grew louder and louder. It was the barking of 7 angry dogs. Morgan's voice had echoed all the way down the tunnel and been heard by the sharp ears of the dogs who loved him. Then, to the men's horror, the 7 dogs raced out of the tunnel at great speed, barking, growling, snarling, with a triumphant Morgan behind them. The men fled, every one of them. Llewellyn had turned to run even before the dogs appeared and was gone. Di leapt at one man and got him down, and Tang leapt at another. The cave was filled with snarls and growls and excited barking. Timmy delightedly joined in, for his captor had rushed away, while the children stood amazed and thankful to see their enemy defeated. Morgan would not let the children stay underground any longer. He told them to go back to the farm and telephone the police, to say, "Morgan has won." They would know what he meant.
I vote we stay here at the farm tonight. I feel tired out after such an adventure, don't you?
I do a bit. And I suppose there won't be so much shuddering and shimmering and rumbling now. I wonder when Morgan will be back.
That's him now, I think.
And the shepherd.
Come on through. Hello, everybody.
Morgan?
Yes?
We want to apologise for being such idiots. We shouldn't have interfered after what you said.
Oh, forget it, boy. All's well now. The police came up the river tunnel and all the men are safe in jail. Llewellyn Thomas is a sad man tonight. His mother is free and staying with friends, poor lady. She doesn't understand what has happened, and that is as well. And maybe now the right people will get that strange metal. It's worth 100 times its weight in gold.
Come in for your supper, Morgan Bach. And you, shepherd. The children are eating with us too. We've a roasting turkey. It's your birthday, Morgan boy.
Oh, well, there now. I didn't know it. Oh, let's go into that turkey. I've had nothing all day.
What an enormous turkey.
Oh, plenty for everyone.
I know who deserves some of this. Dai, Tang, Dun, Rif, Jol, Hal.
He's calling the dogs, just as he called them up the tunnel. Well, they certainly deserve a good dinner.
Here, boys. Here, Timmy, you did well too. Catch!
Oh, there'll not be much left of your birthday turkey. Now, fill your glasses again, children, and we will drink to my Morgan. A better son than never was.
Happy birthday, Morgan, and may your voice never grow less.
Happy birthday!
This audio program is presented by Audible.com. Audible, audio that speaks to you wherever you are.